Hey, what's up, everybody? If you have a screened-in porch and it is time to paint a new coat, this video hopefully can help you out. Now, this is an extremely old wood screened-in porch. You could see there I have removed the little shelves or these little drink ledgers. You could see the horizontal unpainted part there, and we're left with basically this. Now, before we put on a fresh paint of coat, we've got to get all this nasty stuff up. Obviously, this is going to take some time chiseling away and with a wood chisel or a paint scraper and getting rid of all that old paint before you, of course, reapply a fresh coat of paint. So no matter what, you're going to have to do some time here. But I wanted to give you a little tip, particularly working with beveled edges. Obviously, some things like this are not that bad. However, there's a little lip here. You can see me pointing up with my finger. If you can catch that lip and take away as much as the old paint as you can, life is going to be a lot easier. But I wanted to also give you a tip, show you a little machine here. And I'll get to in a second. But for the most part, this particular project, this paint is coming up relatively easy. There are some tough parts here. So again, no matter what, you're going to have to put in a little bit of time and try to remove all this stuff. Now, if you slice the edges as shown, and then kind of pry up with a paint scraper, that's going to help out a little bit. And obviously, if you're dealing with any lead-based paint, you're going to want to leave that to the professionals. Now, this is a little tip here. I have a little sander. You could see the pointed end. I love this thing, and it works really well. Check out how it just takes off all that paint. I'll put a link in the description below if you're interested in picking up yourself one of these things. But look at that. The point kind of goes into the corner and basically sands everything out, gets rid of that paint. And of course, you can use it on various surfaces perpendicular to one another. So this is kind of the little tip here. Now, you can, of course, put that little edge of the sander right up against the first lower edge of the bevel and just kind of hold it at a parallel to the ground, and you'll just kind of go back and forth using that technique shown. And you can work your way up. Of course, you don't want to slice through your screen. That will, of course, happen if you hold it too close. But this sander is a great little thing for working into these very, very small crevices of a beveled edge in your screened-in porch. So now, of course, it's not going to get everything. You'll have some stubborn spots, but after you go over it with the sander, you can kind of alternate with your paint scraper or your wood chisel and just delicately kind of go over that and scrape that old paint out. Obviously, your project might be a little more stubborn or less stubborn. I have no idea, but this is kind of how I did this on this particular screened-in porch. And again, I don't mind roughing it up a little bit. If I do scratch the wood a little, that's not a huge concern because that sander can smooth things out. And it does smooth things out quite well. Now, this sander also has a little tip on it. You can see there's a little screw that you just undo, and it comes with these little pre-cut pieces of sandpaper. And I used about a 150 grit, and then you can upgrade to a 220 grit or something similar, kind of depending on how rough you want it. Now, this sander will chew away the beveled edge if you let it, so be really careful. Try to stay within the grooves of the beveled edge. There are kind of two edges or 2 points. Here's the first one. You can see that again. I'm going parallel to the ground and just trying to kind of keep that smooth out that flat edge. Now I'm going to go up to the next little edge there, and again up to the top of the bevel. And this little piece, of course, works magic. I think I was really impressed with it. First time I had used one of these sanders, and yeah, it got up all the paint, or most of it, and smoothed things out pretty well. Now again, there's no silver bullet, so you're going to have to spend some time with this, right? Now, the upper edges, I'm just going to smooth out before I put a fresh layer of paint on. So you can see this here. I'm not actually going to remove the old paint because the paint's in pretty good condition. That's on obviously an upside down surface, so the snow and the rain over the years or the seasons don't accumulate. And the same thing with the sides. So I'm not really going to remove that particular paint. I'm just going to smooth it out, rough it up so it does receive and I will put another layer of paint on. I'm just not going to remove the old paint. Now, some kind of lower edges are in better shape than others. So if they are in pretty good shape, if I don't feel any sponginess, if I don't feel any paint that's gonna come up, then of course I'm just gonna sand that down and smooth it out. Now this, you obviously have to empty the tray a little bit. Here's another shot at just some really old paint that needs to go. Obviously you don't want to paint on something like this. It just comes right up. And so that, of course, is a critical step before you reapply paint. Again, I'm using my paint scraper, and I'm just manually working away at it. So this is probably the worst condition. This is the lowest bevel on the screened-in porch. Of course, that receives the most exposure to the elements. Snow possibly accumulating there, right? Melting, freezing. So, of course, that paint and the underlying wood is going to be affected. Now, fortunately, the paint did do its job. The wood is not rotted, so that's awesome. And I'm going to check out the technique there. I'm just going to kind of slide it under the paint and remove as much as possible, and then again go over it with this handy, awesome little sander. Now the sander, also I'll say, it has minimal vibrations. It's not like you're going to be using a big belt sander or something. And I've found that really, really nice to work with. So look at that, just kind of removing away those little pieces. It really gets in there, removes that paint, and smooths out the surface. Now notice I'm going over that. You can see some paint not being removed. So of course I'll get out my manual tool and remove that as best I can. So I might need to alternate between the paint scraper and the sander. Okay, but this saved, I think, a ton of work, and hopefully that kind of helps you if you have a similar project. Now, one thing I noticed with the sandpaper on these, this little pointed end, it does kind of wear out faster than a normal if you were using it without the little pointer. So you might have to change that end more frequently. I think that depends on what kind of grit you use, again, and what kind of project you're dealing with. But I could get, about 5 minutes worth, and then I kind of looked at the sandpaper and said, this is burned, and I had to change that out. Handy little tip, if you don't want to buy the pre-cut pieces, they can be rather expensive. You can actually make a little mold and just cut around it and then cut out your own so it fits. So just kind of velcros on the end. Anyway, that's kind of the idea that you're after. You can get as deep as you want on this type of project, but hopefully that helps you a little bit. And if it did, do me a favor and click the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much.